Today, I'm going to critique the only property that I've ever done a house tour video on, and then I'm going to give it an Arvin score at the end of the video. So if you ever decide to buy, remodel, design a property yourself, you won't make the same mistakes. And before watching this video, I want to show you the pictures of the property because they don't show all the angles and all the elements about the property in the video. So I'm going to first show you guys the pictures, kind of explain the whole house, so when you watch the video, you would know what's going on. And before doing that, I want to tell you guys the story of how I got this listing, how did the transaction happen, and what happened after the sale, because it's pretty interesting how it all unfolded. Story time. When I decided to go full-time as a residential real estate agent, I didn't have a big sphere of influence because I never went to school in Los Angeles. So I had to find a way to make connections. And the best way all the real estate coaches in the industry taught us was find buyers and approach off-market listings or expired listings and try to show the property in the process of trying to sell it. Even if you don't sell it, if you're able to build a relationship with the seller and they see that you're trying very hard, they might give you the listing so you can represent that property and slowly becoming a listing agent. Because residential real estate agents, they all want to be listing agents because it's much easier. With buyers, it takes a lot more time, and buyers could be, switch agents in the middle. Someone else shows them a property. Before this new law, there was not a contract between agents and buyers to have exclusivity where the buyer would only work with you. And it was very common. You're working with a buyer, some random agent goes to the bar or restaurant with them, they show them a property, they find them a property, and there they go. There's no, once you sign a contract, you have a guarantee. With listings, you do have that. So that's what you want to be typically if you're a residential real estate agent, and that was my goal. So I had to come up with a strategy. And the number one strategy all the residential real estate coaches teach for the beginners is I have a buyer. Right? And if you're a homeowner in the United States, I'm sure you've got either a letter or a call or an email that, this agent has a buyer. They want to show their property. They want to preview. They first say they want to come preview the property, build that relationship. Hopefully they buy it. But if they don't, then you've showed that you've worked your way in. You're spending time and effort showing the property, and you might just get the listing because you already have been working it if you've built a good relationship with them. And that was exactly my strategy. Except I would do a little bit of a twist to it. What I would do is I would focus mostly on the streets and lots that I really liked, either through asking other agents what the best streets are or doing lot analysis, doing street analysis on different neighborhoods. And then I would either door knock, send an email, or a cold call, try to engage the seller. In this case, I sent an email. I identified my buyer by name. Hey, this is this fashion designer. They just got married. They're looking for this hipster cool house. I sent my portfolio of properties that had sold to that point. Very hardworking, I've seen your property from the outside. It looks very private, but from what I can see, it looks really beautiful. I think this could be a right fit. Would it be okay if I do a preview and get to know you guys? And once in a while, you would get, sure, when would you like to come visit? And that's when I met Lisa and Piero. And it was love at first sight. I really believe in like attracts like and energy. And I could say that immediately we opened the door. They looked at me. I looked at them. We knew it was done. We knew I was going to sell the house. And we hit it off right off the bat. I mean, they had the coolest energy, coolest personalities, world travelers. Before we know it, we're talking about Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and, the Silk Road and North Africa, just going off and on. We're not even talking about the property. And that's when you know you've got that relationship locked down. That's when you know you got the listing. On a side parenthesis, I would tell you all the real estate agents watching this is that when you go on a listing appointment, if you start talking about the property in the first 20, 30 minutes, you're not going to get the listing. In really, really good listing appointments, you would probably talk about the property for 5 minutes. The personal relationship in residential real estate is far more important than how much knowledge you have, how much you know the neighborhood, and all the other stuff. Now, it's not really advantageous to me I'm very technical, but there's a ton of real estate agents that are just incredible at building relationships. They're extremely personable, and they're really great at connecting on a very deep level with very different type of people all the time. And that's how you get listings. Now, in this case, I was in luck and I didn't need to use my expertise. But as we were touring the properties, I identified that this could very much so be the perfect fit for my client. And I explained to them, I walked them through how I would sell each room and how I understood their design, how I understood the fact that they went eclectic, how I understood how well they had branded the property Kenmore Arms. It's a street called Kenmore, and they've gone with this British aesthetic on the inside. And I was just showing them that I understood what they did and I know how to sell this property. I identified different avatars of buyers, and my personal buyer fit into one of those avatars. So I scheduled the showing and I showed the property to my fashion designer client, and they really, really loved it, but they were not yet in a position ready to put an offer. They later on ended up buying a property in Melrose, and they still own it and are renting it out. But by this point, Lisa, Piero, and me were buddies. We were good friends. And to this day, we are very close. We've gone many dinners together, and we sometimes don't talk for years, but as soon as we pick up the phone, it's like nothing happened in between. I later on, after selling this property, bought them the property owned by Colin Farrell, the first property he ever bought when he became famous in Los Angeles. Now, we listed it for $2.75 million, and I ended up selling it for, I think, $2,620,000, somewhere around there. It was a very successful sale in a relatively, I think, in about 3 months period, and they were very happy with the sale, and we purchased another fixer-upper for them, and I can't wait to one day maybe show you guys that property, because it's significantly nicer than this one. It's just gorgeous. Okay, let's go through the photos so I can kind of explain the property. This is going to be a long, narrow house. It's a small house and it's long and narrow. The architectural style is Monterey Colonial. How do you establish that? You see this front door, the porch balcony upstairs? That's a big sign that gives away Monterey Colonial. It's gated from the front and hedged, super, super private. Now, this is the front yard. You've got the awning, you got those shutters. They had beautifully manicured the property. It looked absolutely stunning. And this is the wow factor. It's an internal wow factor. You get a small door to the backyard from here, but it's really not a view property. It's just this beautiful, very British aesthetics, right? So what I really liked about Lisa and Piero, they didn't try to transform this property to something it was not. And they really didn't overspend to give the aesthetics through crazy marble and really expensive material. They really brought this property to life with their interior design techniques, and they did a fabulous job. So this is the internal wow factor you have. And then here's the staircase. They have the runner. And then to the right is the formal living room, which is absolutely stunning. Really, it's a step down formal living room. Opens up to this area. There are bay windows on both sides. Very eclectic, but at the same time, just warm and cozy. And then we go back to this side. You can see on the other side of the entrance foyer, you have the dining room, which is just a great dining room. And the outdoor dining room is right outside the door. And this room goes to the kitchen. And here's the kitchen. You have a beautiful breakfast nook over here. You have a semi-open kitchen. Upstairs, there are 3 bedrooms. But one of the bedrooms doesn't have a bathroom, meaning there's not even a second bathroom upstairs. They either have to go to either one of the other rooms to use the bathroom or go downstairs to use the bathroom. And that was a big negative, meaning the 3rd bedroom really was an office or a creative space. And that's how we decided to market it. The primary bedroom was good size. Again, this is an older house. Again, we're not critiquing a mansion, guys. Okay, this is a $2.6 million property. It's older property, ceiling heights on this upper floor, and even the lower floors were not like, anything crazy, maybe 9 feet. And here's the primary bedroom bathroom. And also the primary closet was not the biggest closet in the world for even a $2.6 million property. Now, part of my strategy in selling these really beautiful, charming, but older, and a lot of times with a lot of, quirky flaws, was to not show everything in the listing photos and let the property steal the heart of the potential buyer in person, because I knew they could overcome that flaw if they see all the other cool stuff that this property had going for it. The backyard was a good size for the neighborhood, but overall, the lot was pretty small. I believe it was 6,000 square feet, which is not much at all. It was very well manicured, and you had a L-shaped seating nook on this side. You had a small swimming pool. You had a little bit of lawn, and then you had the creative converted garage. Here's the pictures of the backyard. Another element was how amazingly private this property was. Now, here's the garage that wasn't really converted, but it was decored, and they used it as a creative space. And there was another tiny, smallest bedroom you can think of downstairs next to the laundry room, which was really a maid's room. Okay, with that said, let's watch my one and only home tour video together. All right, let's pause it here. Do you see how well gated this is? This is complete privacy. You couldn't really see the property from the outside whatsoever. And that was one of the reasons we identified celebrities who are typically attracted to Los Feliz as a potential avatar, and we ended up selling it to a celebrity. Hi, my name is Arvin Haddad with Compass Real Estate. Today, we're at 2022 North Kenmore Avenue in sunny Los Feliz. All right, let's pause it right here. A couple notes. First of all, the house is branded. Did you notice that? I'm going to talk a little bit about it later. The other element is that I'm not with Compass. After Compass, I switched to the agency. And as of about 2-3 months ago, I'm no longer with the agency either. In fact, I have a broker license, so I work under my own license. The house is the perfect mix of rock and roll and storybook aesthetics with glimpses of British nostalgia. With 2,500 square feet of living space, it feels like you're staying at a bed and breakfast in the English countryside without ever getting on a plane. So let's not waste any time. I want to welcome you to the Kenmore Arms. This is critical. This is one of the most appropriately branded houses you can imagine. Okay, you're using the word Arms, gives you that British nostalgic element. Kenmore is the name of the street. Nothing fancy, like Villa Siena going Italiano or something. Keeping it, through accents British when it's a Monterey Colonial. And I think explaining this as a beautiful English bed and breakfast was really appropriate, because Lisa and Piero didn't go for luxury, which was a really important decision. A lot of developers will look at this property, was like, oh, marble this, marble that, let's raise the ceilings, let's do it. They are serial home flippers, but they always live in the properties too. So they find a project, live in it, make it beautiful, always a fixer, fix up the property, live in it for like 2, 3, 4 years, and then sell it and do the next property. And they've been super successful doing this, and they understood the strength of the property. I swear, I've learned so much from my own clients that I think a lot of real estate agents don't. They're so worried about showing up confident that they know everything, as to being more humble and learning from your clients is one of the best ways. You end up getting so much knowledge by just being a little humble. And I learned so much stuff just by talking to them and looking at their houses, looking at the houses they were interested in to buy later, and understood what they always had was a plan. They understood that there's certain things with the property that they can fix, but they shouldn't fix, because if they take it in a direction that plays into the faults of the property, they can save a lot of money and they still can find their freaking buyers, and they always have. And the first thing was branding the property appropriately. And if you pay attention, they didn't go super fancy schmancy. The finishes are appropriate. They fit the bed and breakfast English style, but it's not like they spent a ton of money on it. As you walk in, you notice floor-to-ceiling flowering quince wallpaper by Clarence House that stretches all the way up the staircase.
This is accompanied by a British gallery wall and a traditional runner on the stairs held down with brass hardware.
What a wow factor. Again, I think a lot of people who live in regular homes, they really don't do their internal wow factor right. It's a huge opportunity. Like, this property doesn't have a view. You don't even see the backyard when you walk in. As to a lot of properties, you do see the backyard, but they just created such a mood, which is consistent through all the other rooms you see. When you walk in, you read the sign, the Kenmore Arms. What is that, British? Is that a British slang? We don't use arms in, what is it? You open the door. There's no doubt at this point that you're going for a British experience. There's this old charm. So you don't have the expectations of super high ceilings. You don't have expectations of marble. You set the story. You direct the buyer. You channel the buyer through your vision, right? You when they see this property, they're not expecting marble. They're not expecting expensive finishes. They're expecting a British experience, right? They're expecting that. So when they come out of it, they're not going to be like, well, the kitchen didn't have the best marble. No. It wasn't supposed to have the best marble. It was supposed to be a charming, British, nostalgic house and experience.
Just to the right of the entryway, you're invited into a formal step-down living room. Here you notice built-in bookcases, inviting fireplace, tall ceilings, bay windows. Isn't this a great space to invite your rock star friends?
Let's talk about the pros, okay? This room, it's got triple exposures. It's at the end of the property. It's pretty grand for a 2,500 square foot home. It's a great room. You got a lot of natural light coming. The property is west facing, so you get east facing, you get west facing, you get a south facing from the windows behind that red chair. It's lit, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a long house. It's going to be disconnected from the other areas, which for a great room, it's actually not a bad thing.
The next stop is the kitchen, which is super cozy. With gorgeous custom cabinetry, unpolished honed granite, an English August stove, and an intimate breakfast nook, this room is perfect for a cup of tea.
Look, first of all, the producer of the show was helping with these lines, okay? He was a lot. Like, he really directed me writing these lines. And the most important part was that I didn't want to fluff. Right? I just can't do. I'm sorry. I'm not that agent to come in and say, make something that it's not. I'm going to go with the strength of the property. So I have no problem calling a kitchen cozy when it's cozy. A lot of people try to sell function. I like to sell the sizzle. I like to sell emotion that the space brings you. And I think a lot of home tour guys can learn something from this crappy video with no experience that I've done. I'm not saying, look at this, look how big this is when it's not. I'm not exaggerating. I am trying to show the experience I'm having. I'm sharing my experience that I'm having with the audience, doubling down, basically telling them that this is the way it's making me feel instead of fluffing the property. It does sound cheesy when I look at it, but again, this was my first and only one, thank God.
For a cup of tea. Next, we have the dining room, which is just past the faux leather swinging door. This relaxing space is ideal for hosting candlelit dinner parties with overflowing glasses of wine. Surrounding the table is custom wallpaper by London-based designer Deborah Bonus, accented by a craftsman hanging chandelier, painted paneling, and a horseshoe bench to finish the room. Let's not forget about the French doors that open to a magical space.
All right, before we go outside, let's talk about the dining room and the layout. It's a long house, but it's pretty functional. I mean, the kitchen is right next to the dining room. Then there's the foyer, the entrance to the property, and the formal living room is there. So even going from the formal living room to the dining room is a very short distance. I think one of the most magical moments were this dining room. It looks a little smaller in the video. It's actually bigger than it looks. It was that perfect place. You would have exactly what I say. There's 5-6 bottles of red wine, drinking, going outside. You just have to know Lisa and Pierre. They really embodied this property, right? You got to know them. And they really brought their personal touches and personality to the property, and it was It was amazing. And I really liked the outdoor dining area too. They had a little breakfast table over here. Just super, super charming.
The backyard is surrounded by hedges, providing complete privacy from the world beyond. You also have access to a heated pool with a built-in spa.
That's not a pool. Come on, man. Arvin, what are you doing, bro? That's a dipping pool. Okay, that's a small pool. I went overboard over there. You got to be correct on it.
At the top of the stairs, we start with the master bedroom, which is complete with an intimate seating area, wood floors throughout, and a brick fireplace.
So natural wood burning fireplace, really cool, super important if you're going British nostalgic route, and we would have that on during the showing. Now, upstairs, there's 3 bedrooms, remember? And this bedroom had a good sized bathroom, small walk-in closet, which in LA, it's kind of dangerous. And then you're going to see the bedroom in the middle. I don't think they show you the 3rd bedroom, which was really if you had a family of 2, the kids had to share a bedroom, right? Or at least one of the kids had to go to the bathroom of the other kid, which would be really annoying.
And lastly, one of my favorite getaways is the creative lounge. In this room, the energy is set by the large glass doors that let in fresh air and natural light,
which goes into the upstairs front-facing balcony.
Opposite to the windows is an expansive bookshelf. Whether you choose to fill the wall with good reads or your favorite memories, this environment can be customized to fit any artist's needs.
So we're calling out, you see, in the video, I'm calling out the demographics, right? I think a lot of people don't do this in their home tour videos. Like, you got to say, you're like, hey, this like artist, I can imagine an artist being here. I can imagine a filmmaker being here. I can imagine a rock star being here, right? I'm constantly trying to call out the demographics, so the person who's watching this video will identify, it's like, oh, yeah, like, I like it, right? I'm calling them out by name.
This house offers the best of both worlds. The California weather with the refinement of a soulful English manner. If you're looking to break away from the stereotypical spec house, or maybe perhaps you're missing your English roots, then this house was meant for you.
Did you see that? Again, I am not trying to say it's not going to have high ceiling. I'm not saying, I'm not focused. I'm like, do you want the typical stereotypical property that it's, spec'd out, that looks just like the other, developer home? Or do you want something that is architecturally appropriate and also that charming interior that very few properties have? Okay, before I give it an Arvin score, if you're planning to build, buy, remodel a property and you want 12 months of support, if you're planning to purchase a property that you might want to renovate later, you might want to consider joining the inner circle. We are helping a ton of people make the right decisions so they will save money, time, and at the end of the day, be happier in the property. Okay, let's give it an Arvin score. Location. This is Los Feliz, south of Los Feliz Boulevard. Ideally, you want to be north. I'm going to give it a 6.5. Lot quality. Look, 6,000 square foot, all flat. It's going to get a 4. I mean, it's a really small lot, right? Lot utilization. The frontage is tight. There's no motor court. There is a garage that was converted. Your side setbacks are good size on the driveway to the garage side, but on the other side, it's pretty tight. And you have a long, narrow backyard. I'm going to give it a 5. Privacy. This, for a smaller lot, is extremely private. I'm going to give it a 9. Lot orientation. It's west with a little bit of south. I'm going to give it a 7. Architectural style, Monterey Colonial at its finest. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to give it a 9. Views, it's not a view property. It's going to get a 0. Layout. Look, the internal wow factor was amazing. It just goes with the architectural style. I don't care we didn't get any views when we walked in. But what I do care about is that bathroom upstairs and the fact that your formal living room is really also your living room. They had a TV right by the breakfast nook. It was large enough for family of 3 or 4 tightly hang out together, but you really didn't have a family room downstairs, and that's a negative. I'm going to give it a 6. Scale and volume. It's an older home, no sugar coating yet. I'm going to give it a 4. Finishes. Look, I can't give it anything more than a 6.5. It was really standard stuff. They didn't go all out on expensive material, but that's exactly what you should do. You don't have to take a property that doesn't need to be extra ultra luxury. You don't have to take it to that direction to get a good exit. You can go with the flow and aesthetics and the architectural style of the property, choose less expensive finishes that go with that bed and breakfast English vibe, and spend the money on the decor and the wallpaper and, you know, the furniture and the art to do the magic, to bring that aesthetics without wasting your money. Now, here's the Arvin score. If you want to see the worst mansion in Hampton, watch this video. And if you want to see one of the best properties, modern, earthy tones in La Jolla, California, watch this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the comments.